Hey out there, guys. This is Eric with All Party Starz Entertainment. I've got a few people that do not have time to get together, and schedules just aren't lining up for them to get together and do a consultation meeting. So I've already got videos up on our website. If you go to the site, there's a hiring a DJ with questions you should ask for that. There's a video on the online planner to explain how to use that for you. There's actually two there. One's very in depth and probably too in depth, and the other's just a short idea. There are pricing tables on the page here for pricing. If you scroll down there, there's a video here to kind of tell you how long your wedding should be. And then this is pricing options in here, and we can explain that to you, but it's laid out in a grid so you can see what you need and kind of figure out what it is. You can adapt any of these with the options down here. The only difference is as we go up in levels here, we add more and more of these options in, and the prices are discounted as you move up in the packages. So the more of the options you get, the more discounts you get to the bottom line. But I'm putting this together so that I can go through a normal timeline and kind of explain to you why we do things the way we do. So that's the purpose. We do this at our normal consultation meeting. The couple I used in this is Betty Bride and John Groom, just to not use real names so that we're not embarrassing anybody or showing anybody's personal stuff. The other thing here I'll let you know is that all of these documents can be printed from right here inside your planner. Here's the home page, and then if you go to Plan My Event, all these documents can be printed from here. They are all questionnaires from here, and then they are all the music stuff from here. So I guess first thing to get started is kind of a background on me. I've been doing weddings for over 35 years now. I've done over 2,000 weddings, and my goal in doing this is to help you and to guide you and to give you the best events you can. So my motto in the company is your event done your way. Came up with that many, many years ago. But over the years, I've seen people try different things. I've seen different ways of running things, and I've put together what I consider to be the best and most effective way to give you the best opportunity to have the best events you can. So as we get in here and we start talking about the timeline and we start talking about your event, it is your event done your way, but I feel an obligation as the professional that you hired that if you're stepping in it and something that you're saying you want to do is not going to work well for you, I usually will give you an illustration of what I've seen in the past and kind of give you some options and talk to you about it. And if at that point you say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, we'll do it that way, then that's great. However, if you say, you know what, I want it the way I want it, and it's my wedding, and you say your event done your way, so that's what I want, then that's what we're going to do. I will do my best. Sometimes, just to be honest, I get a little frustrated when folks want to make major changes or too many small changes, and I know that it's going to have a negative effect on the event, but it is your event done your way. So a lot of your guests don't know and have not been to other events. We constantly hear, this was the best event we were ever at. A lot of people don't go to events that are put together really well, so they don't know, and your event could go very well. So I guess part of what I tell people sometimes is if you're driving from one place to another, there's lots of different routes you can get there. Some will take longer, some will take shorter, some are more scenic, some are not more scenic. It really depends on your tastes and what you want. So if you sit with me and you're explaining you want something different, and I think, well, no, that won't work the best, and then you explain to me why you're thinking that and what your goal is in doing that. A lot of times, a lot of the stuff we've come up over the years with that goes really well came from brides and grooms telling us their stories and telling us what they wanted to do, and then we found out, oh, that was awesome. So we're very open to that. I just want you not to be upset if I tell you, hey, maybe we should try it this way. So I'm going to close down some of this. I'm going to put the timeline. I've got that in the background here. I'm going to open that up, make it a little bigger. And over here we've got our worksheets. Now, the names, as you give them to us, are going to get pulled over onto here. So when you see your father-daughter dance, your mother-son dance, we've added in the names of the mom and the dad, and obviously we made up names there, but we've added them in there. When you tell us who's going to be given toast, we list them out here. This becomes our working document, and 10 days before your wedding, we actually send copies of this to all your vendors with a little blurb for each one of them saying, hey, check this out, and if there's any issues, please let us know. That way we're all working on the same page. Your page here, the only thing that's not really on there is when you do grand introductions. All the names are on here. We're going to start at the bottom of the names, and we're going to work our way up, and this is what we do your introductions off of. So that's your names sheet. Underneath that, This is a list of all your vendors. We give you that so that you can stay organized. If you put their emails in here, that is how we get their email to them, telling them how to do this. And obviously, we don't want to put people's real emails in there. So we made up some emails. So hopefully nobody's offended by that. This is the questionnaire about your activities. If you fill this out from top to bottom, this tells us, hey, I don't want to do this event. I do want to do that event. I do want to do that. We give you all the options. A lot of these are in pull downs. And then at the bottom, whether you ask for them or not, these are songs that people might ask for at your wedding. And because some people love them and some people hate them, we have a list of them here so you can tell us what your thoughts are. If it says do not play this song, we take that to mean play this will kill you. And if we have to hear it, obviously, we're going to play it. And then play only if requested means basically, it's not my favorite, but I don't mind it. So if somebody asks for it, go ahead and play it. And to be honest, a lot of times if I think it's something that's going to help your event and I see something like, maybe you have play only if requested for the Cupid Shuffle, and I see everybody went nuts on the electric slide or the cha-cha slide or something, I'm like, man, I think the Cupid Shuffle would be perfect here. So those are tools to get people up. A lot of times people are like, I hate those dances. But the thing to keep in mind is the goal for those is to get your folks up and dancing and getting them having a fun time and realizing that it's okay to have fun. So your aunts, your uncles, your older crowd, they know the electric slide. They don't know what the Cupid Shuffle is. So if you get them doing the electric slide, I got a secret for you. There's about 2 step changes to make it the Cupid Shuffle from the electric slide. So if we get them doing one, they'll pick up the other. It'll go fun. So that's why we have this in the worksheet. Last thing here, music requests. It is your event. It is done your way, and we're going to do that with all of these requests. The goal is for you to tell us what you want for every single event, and it's very important that we play the songs that you want, not the songs that we want, because it's your event. Down here, we have a must-play list and a play if possible list. The thing you need to know about that, must-play and play if possible, the reason we break it into 2 lists, if we cannot get to all of your requests and things are running out, we're running out of time, we're not going to get to it, we want to know which requests have priority. So the must-play list is exactly that. We're going to break our butts to play that list. I typically play 95%, usually 1, maybe 2 songs on the whole list that I don't play. But that's, that's the norm. But, I don't want to leave out the one song that has some special meaning to you because we only had 1 list. So that's the reasoning for that. So I'm going to close that. And now let's get into your schedule. Now, once again, I've been doing this a long time. A lot of what we do is to stage things for the maximum opportunity for success. We want people to be focused on you. We want people to be focused on what's happening, and that's why we do things in the way we do it. And I'll walk you once again from the top to the bottom here. We typically get to your wedding about 2 hours before we start. Gives us time to get set up and get everything laid out, do sound checks, etc., etc. And that's if you're doing a ceremony and reception. If we're just doing a reception, it'll probably be about an hour and a half. We play seating music starting half an hour before your ceremony. If it is the middle of the summer and it is hot outside and it's air conditioned inside, your guests are not going to go outside until the last minute. So we often put in our documents 15 to 30 minutes prior. We're just saying that if people are out there, we'll start music 30 minutes prior, but if they're not, we're going to start it later. Now, typically a ceremony and reception set is a set on the outside. That's the norm around here. And then you move inside and you have your reception inside. Cocktail hour, which is after dinner, coming down here, where we at? Recessional cocktail hour. Cocktail hour is called an hour because it should be an hour. If you do photos with all the bridesmaids and the bride's family ahead of time, you do all the photos with the groomsmen and the groom's family ahead of time, all you need to do afterwards during the cocktail hour is get all of those pictures of all the family that arrived later. And that typically only takes 30 to 45 minutes, and that works really, really well. If you wait to do all of your pictures and try and do them in between, it's going to be like an hour and a half, and then it's a cocktail hour and a half. And what we find is that when you're playing cocktail music and people have gotten out of that and they're waiting for the reception to start, it kind of kills the energy level. It's the first time you have an opportunity to start losing the energy level. I say that for about every minute you go over an hour, you probably lose 1 guest that's going to leave pretty much right after the cake cutting. And that's just what I've seen over the years is kind of a general thing. So kind of keep in mind that maybe you want to be doing your photos, about the time we're arriving, you want to be doing photos so that by the time the wedding starts, you guys have got about half your photos done. Excuse me. All right, heading down here. Ceremony. Ceremonies we schedule from 5 to 5:30 with half an hour time. Typically they take 15 to 20 minutes, so we give them 30. You typically don't start right on time. and typically 15-20 minutes. You'll end up maybe 5 minutes early, but by putting it as a half an hour, I call that cushion time. And our schedule has a lot of quote-unquote cushion time built in, and the reasoning for that cushion time is so that if you fall behind, we can catch back up. We don't want to have the entire schedule go out the window just because we were, being really, really tight with the schedule. So there's a reasoning behind a lot of the little lag spaces we have. So usually if you have vocalists or somebody playing instruments, if you give us their contact information ahead of time, we'll work that out and work with them. Otherwise, we'll play music. We typically start your music half an hour prior, and then your prelude music. The first song listed here is going to be what your parents are coming into, typically grandparents and parents, and then we have a particular song for the wedding party. So a lot of people don't pick a particular song for the parents and the grandparents, and we just, whatever the last song is, that's what it is, and then we start with your wedding party. But if you want to specify a song for your parents and grandparents, then we can do that as well. Bridal March should be a different song or somehow differentiated for the bride. Picture going to a rock concert. You never have the main headline act come in and play one of the opening band songs. It just doesn't work that way. You are at your wedding. The bride is the main event, and she needs to have a song that sets her apart. It should be something that means something to her, and it doesn't have to be fast, doesn't have to be slow. It has to be something that has meaning to her, but it should be a song for her and her father when they're coming down the aisle. Or if somebody else is bringing them down the aisle, obviously. So, song for the wedding party, song for the bride. If you're doing a sand ceremony or a unity candle or a hand fasting, or you're doing a box with letters in them, there's a whole lot of different things people do. We need to find out from you if the minister is going to be talking during that, and if you want background music for that. If they are talking, it needs to be an instrumental, or there needs to be no music. If they're not talking and they're just introducing it, and it's something that's going to take a minute, like the sand ceremony takes like a minute or two to pour the sand, it's great to throw some music in there. And if you can throw something in there that has a great message, that's awesome. You get down to the end of the ceremony, typically your minister is going to turn you around and face you to the crowd, introduce you as Mr. and Mrs., and we hit your last song. We like to have some fun with that when we meet in person. Talk to me about that. But there's a lot of songs we can do that make that kind of we'll hit a ceremonial song, and then we'll cut it off in the middle of the song. Everybody will look at the DJ and think he screwed up, and then we'll play something really fun for you to go out to. So it's just something to say, we're done with formalities, let's party. So at that point, your guests are going to go off. They're going to have their cocktail hour, and the wedding party is going to finish up their pictures. I give 50 minutes here. Typically, it's going to be an hour. And then you'll see there's 20 minutes before the intro. So this is another place where we build on some cushion time. Same thing when we start doing introductions. Wedding party and the grand intro for the bride and the groom should be different songs. If they're not, then I will work with you on finding a way to differentiate it so that it has a very non-subtle effect so that we can jump up the energy level. That's the one thing. This one, the energy level is important. You don't want to have a really raucous, crazy, upbeat song here and then come in and have you come into something mellow, because it's taking the energy in the wrong level. Now, coming down here, lots of people in different parts of the country over the years, this has changed a lot. Everybody used to do their first dance after dinner. Over the years, we've discovered that isn't necessarily the most effective way to do it. So we have you walk in, you're literally standing on the dance floor when you get introduced, and everybody's focused and everybody's looking at you. It is the absolute perfect time to do your first dance. So we usually have some fun with your wedding party, get them kind of lined up like a sports intro, have them all lined up on both sides, have you guys come down through the middle, dancing party for just a second. You take the center of the floor after about 30 seconds of music. We have them sit down. We have the guests sit down. While they're doing that, you're getting in place. We'll talk to you a little bit. We're not talking to you to hear ourselves talk. We're talking to you basically to kill the time while the wedding party is sitting down. And then you're going to do your first dance. Now, it is considered traditionally to be a faux pas or a social miscue to dance at a wedding before the bride and the groom. So if you don't do your first dance, and we're playing some great old classic dinner music, and somebody hears a song that was very special to them, it's almost like they can't get up and do their dance because you haven't done it. And that's another of the reasons why we do the first dance first. The other thing is this, whether you're doing a blessing or not, and then you're going into dinner, if you're doing it at the tail end of dinner, what happens is you've got guests that were drinking that are going to be looking out and trying to find the restrooms as soon as they're done. And your guests, because if it's a buffet and you have, say, 150 guests, by the time that last guest gets through the line and sits down with their food, the first guest is done eating. So they're going to start getting bored. They're going to be going to the bar. They're going to be running to find the best restroom. You may have smokers there, and they're going to go outside. You may have people that want to play with their cell phone, and they want to go play, find a spot where they can, do something on their cell phone. All of that is taking away from the central focus of your event. So if you do your first dance and all those things at the end of that, what happens is it isn't as focused and it isn't as well staged as far as an event. And staging is really important. So that's a couple of the reasons why we do the first dance there. If you want more, we can talk about that, because there are more. There's just a lot of reasons why it flows better. However, do your first dance, sit down, we do the blessing, or you don't do a blessing, whichever you prefer, and then we serve dinner. Now, if it's a buffet, we'll work with your caterer. If they want us to help them, we can release tables for them and help with that. If they don't, then we're fine. If you have a lot of requests, I typically won't go around asking for requests, but if you don't have a lot of requests, it's always fun to walk table to table and get people to buy in and say that there's a song that they'll all get up and dance to, and that way we can kind of use that to build some rapport with the crowd, and it's kind of fun. Now, dinner. The thing you see listed after this is toasts. Dinner's going to take, say you have an average crowd of 100, 125 people. If you have a two-sided buffet, it's going to take roughly half an hour for all those people to get their food, depending on the buffet and the caterer. Minimally 20 minutes, max 40, 45. So I put toasts on the tail end by my own personal preference. However, I will tell you that a lot of venues, if your caterer is there and the caterer's got to pour something for toast, if you're doing champagne, sparkling cider, and you're doing a specific toast, then we really have to do it right after the first dance, because your caterer doesn't want to be dealing with having people getting food and having people getting done with their dishes and trying to pick up dishes at the same time they're trying to pour champagne. So they will want the toast moved to right after the first dance before the blessing. So that comes up here. Now, here is the thing with that. If you do that, you are losing party time. If you do toasts and you finish these dances and you do them, remember I mentioned all those people getting done eating? Imagine as that last person is sitting down and some of those other people are getting done eating, we announce toasts. And we start doing toasts, and maybe we're toasting with what we have in our hands. We don't have to worry about pouring. So maybe 5-10 minutes earlier I mentioned, hey, if you don't have something in front of you want, go get some whatever beverage you want to have for the toast. By doing that, it's going to fill that dead time and keep those people engaged and keep them involved with your event and keep things focused. So filling that in on the toast and then going right into the father, daughter, mother, son dance, by the time we get done with all that, everybody will be done eating, and you actually didn't lose any time at all because you did all that while people were eating and you needed to eat anyway. So it makes the event flow smoother and also gives you more time to dance. Now, once again, if you need to, you can move the toast up and we go to father, daughter dance, mother, son dance. So a couple different things you could do there, just kind of giving you the options. Now, father, daughter dance, mother, son dance, something I picked up years ago. Once again, I mentioned staging. We want to make this as special as we can for you. So typically, I'll have the best man, and then I'll have the maid of honor, and then I will talk to the father of the bride and do a little coaching and teach him that if you could just say, honey, I love you, you look beautiful today, I'm so proud of you, those are the three main things. Would you please dance with me? If your father asks the bride to dance, it is so much more emotional and so much more meaningful to the rest of the crowd. If I stand up and say, ladies and gentlemen, now in this particular instance, now Betty's going to dance with her dad or bride, it gets golf claps, and some people are into it. But if the father stands up and says just a few words, doesn't have to make a big speech, just honey, I love you, you look beautiful, would you dance with me? Takes all of 5 seconds. Everybody that's in the crowd will give oohs and ahs and love that. By the same token, he's going to set the microphone down at the table as he goes over to take her hand, and he's going to go do his dance. When that's done, we're going to go into the mother-son dance. This is an awesome opportunity for the groom to pick up that microphone and say something really, really nice to mom in front of all of those guests that she's going to remember and talk about for years. I get calls probably once every couple months since I started doing this several years ago from a groom saying, you know what, my mom still raves about that every time we're at a family event. All she talks about is how I told her I love her and thanked her for all the hard work she'd done for me and getting me to that day. And a lot of the guys will have some fun with that and make some jokes out of it, and the fact that she picked up after him, and she put up with all of his crap, and it's kind of fun, but it's also very touching, and it makes a nice thing. So if the groom wants to do that, he can. If the groom is not comfortable speaking in front of people and does not want to do that, no problem. I can absolutely introduce it. So I do father-daughter dance, I do mother-son dance, and then I'm going to tell you that I have on this schedule cake cutting down here. I have moved cake cutting. I typically do father-daughter, mother-son cake cutting. Let me explain why. There are a lot of guests at your reception who love you, they care for you, they wouldn't miss it for the world, but they don't like parties, they don't like dancing, they don't like loud music, they don't want to be there later. So those folks are literally sitting and waiting till after the cake cutting, because that's the universal symbol for we're done with all the pleasantries and all the fun, and it's okay to leave is typically the cake cutting. So if we move the cake cutting up and we do it right before open dancing, there's a couple of things that can happen from that. The first one is this. If the bride and the groom decide they want to shove cake in each other's face, that's awesome. That's fun if you want to do it. Some people do, some people don't. Some people don't plan on it and then they do it anyway. But if you do the cake cutting right away and you guys do shove cake in each other's face, I'm going to be opening the dance floor, so everybody's going to go to the dance floor. And if you need to go clean off, that's fine. But if I have the cake cutting in the middle of a bunch of other events like it is down here, and you do that, now everybody's kind of standing around and it's very awkward because we're waiting and waiting and waiting for the bride and the groom to get back from cleaning up. So if we do it at that other time, we don't have that problem. The other issue is by doing the cake cutting then, if they have to take the cake in the back and they need to cut it and slice it up and everything, that gives them that open dancing time to be doing that and get the cake sliced up. They can put it out. They can either A, serve it while everybody's up and away from their tables. It's easier to serve. Or if they need to put it out, they can come to me and say, hey, the cake's out, and between songs I'll make an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, the cake's over there. And that way, if we're having a great time and everybody's having a blast and we're pushing some of this other stuff back because we don't want to break up the dancing, those folks at least can sit and have their cake, and while everybody's doing that, they can approach you and come up and say, hey, I love you, it was beautiful, I loved it, we're going to head home, thank you so much for inviting us. It gives them that opportunity during that open dancing, so it works out really well there. We typically do open dancing for 20 to 30 minutes, and usually at this point, that's going to be older music. You don't want to come out at dinner while you have your aunts, your uncles, your parents, your grandparents, and turn, and head into your music with "Turn Down for What" by Little John or something like that. You don't want to hit them with, hardcore new music, new dance music. You want to hit them with some classics. And a lot of times I'll start out with a couple slow songs. We might use "At Last" by Etta James, or we might use Elvis Presley, "Can't Help Falling in Love." Those are great timeless songs. Then start dancing. You might throw the Twist or Twist and Shout, or some of those songs. "Wonderful Tonight" by Eric Clapton's another slow one. "I Love Rock and Roll," Bob Seger. A lot of these older great classic songs are great to throw into that first dance set. Now, we don't want to stick with them for too awfully long. We want to kind of move up in a couple decades as quick as we can, and we want to play a little bit of new music before we get out of that, because I don't want your younger guests to think, oh my God, they're going to play 30 and 40-year-old music all night. Don't want to have that either. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. That's our goal. And then we're going to come back and finish all the stuff you want to do. Now, anniversary dance is a dance to glorify couples and how long they've been together. I like to do an anniversary dance the reverse of everyone else, how everyone else does it. I like to get all your guests wrapped in a big circle around the floor, and we count upward and we build the dance floor as we go. And if you do that, if you do a little research ahead of time and you know the couple that's been married the longest, we can actually have the song that was their wedding song, or whatever, if they didn't have a wedding, whatever their special song was, we can have that queued up and ready to go, and we can actually dedicate that to the couple and have everybody out there dancing to their song. If we're going to do it that way, we might move the anniversary dance down here to the very end so that we're opening up and starting a new dance floor and filling a dance floor again. If not, you see cake cutting there, which we moved up. You might have a honeymoon dance, which is a dollar dance. Now, a lot of people don't like honeymoon dances. They don't like the idea of doing a dollar dance. They feel awkward because they've already got a gift and all the rest of that. But honestly, it's kind of like a dancing receiving line, and it gives you the opportunity to have 15, 20 seconds to say whatever they want to say and have a moment to give you a hug and a personal moment that you don't really get anywhere else. So a lot of couples now are actually putting a jar out and taking donations and putting it to whatever their favorite charity is, and not requiring people to pay $1 to dance. It just becomes a dancing receiving line, and we just invite everybody up. But you can do it either way. I can also have fun with it and say we got a young couple that just got married and we're going to try and help them out with money for their honeymoon, which is where the honeymoon dance idea comes from. And if everybody'd like to get up and dance with them, maybe we're going to have a contest and see which one can come up with more money. If the bride comes up with more money, then the groom has to do something, for the first year. If the groom comes up with more money, the bride has to do something for the first year. We can talk about anything you want to have as the bet, or I can come up with stuff for you. But it makes it kind of fun, makes it kind of interesting. I can either play slow, mellow songs that aren't quote-unquote love songs, or I can play kind of fun, upbeat songs that are kind of tongue-in-cheek about money, like For the Love of Money by the OJs, or If I Had $1 Million by Bare Naked Ladies, or just songs along those lines, if that makes sense. Last two I have here is the bouquet toss, garter removal and garter toss, bouquet sequence and garter sequence. Bouquet toss takes all of about a minute, and I will tell you about a third of brides are not doing the bouquet toss anymore, but it doesn't take up any time, and if you want to do it, we should do it. And you see I have 5 minutes scheduled, and I said it only takes a minute. That's, once again, cushioning time. Garter removal, if you want to do it, you can. I will tell you probably 50 to 60% of people are not doing the garter events anymore, and those that are doing it are not usually doing the replacement, where the gentleman that caught the garter puts it on the girl that caught the bouquet, because they don't want to run the risk of embarrassing a couple of their friends in front of all their guests. So we typically will do the bouquet toss, garter removal, garter toss. Once again, garter removal takes about a minute, minute and a half. Garter toss takes a minute. Replacement, if you do it, takes a couple of minutes. But we don't have to do that. Those are just things to fill and have fun. A lot of folks today are saying, you know what, I'm going to do all their other stuff. I'm not going to do the bouquet and the garter. I just want to get into dancing. And by this schedule, if we had a 6-hour event, you're done about, before 9 o'clock. You've got 2 full hours of dance time. And if you take a couple of those things off, you can end up with 2.5 to 3 hours of dance time. And a lot of people are opting for that. Another thing we do a lot, they call it a shoelywed game, where the bride and the groom sit back to back, and we name things like who wears the pants in the family, and you hold up the shoe to correspond to the right person. So basically you'd share, you trade shoes before we start. I do this with pool noodles. I call it the noodly-wed game. And I like to invite 2 or 3 other couples out there with you, so that you have maybe a couple that's been married 5 to 10 years, a couple that's been married 15 to 20, and hopefully one over 25. It's fun to see how the different generations answer the questions differently. And what I do is, instead of having them, exchange shoes and hold shoes over their heads, because some people think that shoes are kind of gross, and they don't want to be holding them in their hand up over their head. And I get that. So if that's the case, we do it with pool noodles. Pool noodles are easy to see from a distance. We do a pink and a blue pool noodle for each person. So pink for the bride, blue for the groom, or pink for the man, pink for the woman, blue for the man. We ask the questions, you hold those up. And what's kind of fun when we do the pool noodles is that when one of the couples is not doing well, you'll end up seeing one of them, using the pool noodle to smack the other person in the head. And it gets to be, it adds a little bit of comic element into this. So that is the noodly-wed game. And it's typically, we do 15 to 20 different things where they go up against each other. And once again, I invite other people, just so you don't feel like you're the only one out there and everybody's staring at you. If you get 2 or 3 other couples out there, it's a little more of a group thing and gets more people involved. And like I said, it's fun to watch how the different generations do it differently. So that gives you about 2 hours to dance at the end. We go over all this with you at the final planning meeting as well. If you have things that you want to do or family traditions, you let us know what those are, and we kind of incorporate those in wherever they make sense. Other things that people have done in the past might include a photo-video montage, which I would use once again to fill some time during dinner. I have people that want us to do a love story, which is a verbal story with music and music from audio or music from video, from movies or TV, mixed in with your story. And we do that normally right before your first dance. We'll have you sit on the chairs right at the edge of the dance floor and tell your story in front of all your guests, and then we use the end of that as a segue into your first dance. So a couple other things that people do. We have a lot of different things we can help you with if you're looking for other ideas for things to do, but honestly, it's your wedding, and we don't want to push a lot of stuff down your throat. But if you're looking for ideas, ask us. We'll go over that. Hopefully this hasn't been too long. I apologize, and hopefully I didn't ramble all over the place too much. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you have questions, as always, I'm in the office. I'm Eric, 717-327-4742. Give me a call, and I'll be glad to help you with anything you need. Thank you.